All right, the property prequel, be in the know before you buy. Crossy.
Matthew, how are you, mate?
I'm good. Good, it's heating up.
It's hot today. Is that aircon on?
Mate, I seen you pull in. You had I don't know what, you jumped out of the beat? Or you didn't have the aircon on in the car or what? Far out.
The big forehead. There's plenty of sweat running down. But
crazy. No,
it's a hot one.
It's getting, it's heating up, mate. It's definitely heating up. And it's really interesting, like with the property market as well. We always do add some value to buyers. I'm really noticing at the moment, like even from a market sense, things bubbling. Things bubbling. It's really interesting. Like open home numbers still strong. I've noticed a few properties in a multiple offer scenario, a few sold prior to auction, probably 5-10% above where I thought they were going to sell. Finished product, I might add. So I'm really interesting I'm sort of keeping an eye on some of the finished stuff is still doing pretty well. So
yep.
Are you seeing the sort of same thing out
there?
there?
Yeah, a couple of auction results have surprised me given the sentiment that's out there.
Yeah.
You know, last week some of the banks were talking about that there could be another 4 interest rate rises. And, you know, some people are, you go to a barbecue or a catch-up or a dinner and people are petrified. But then you see a couple of the auctions on the weekend sort of shoot the lights out and you go, wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see that disparity still between the completed stuff that's still selling quite well and then the knockdown rebuild or the renovators, where I still think there's some good value there.
Yeah.
If you've got the patience to wait for a builder and correction in the build prices. Or, you know, if you've got those patients, or you can just sort of sit tight for a while and just, you know, wait till everything settles down or whatever. So, mate, it is interesting at the moment. But I think, like, overarching all that, I think it's probably a year of consolidation. A lot of people will be coming off fixed rates. That's going to be a drama for a lot of people. I think we'll see a bit of, like, ebbs and flows this year in the property market. I think some market segments will do really well, and I think some others will be a little bit, up and down. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for sure. I said something last night and it got a lot of feedback. I just put a bit of commentary out on the observation of around what I'm noticing with properties that were listed around November, December, that are still on the market.
Right.
Nearly 90% of them had some sort of price adjustment, price drop.
Yep.
Post-Christmas. Taking the price off. Yeah.
Yep.
So really interesting because obviously I get those calls on the daily from agents giving us heads up on some of the stock changes. So keeps us on top of mind for our buyers. But yeah, just more than ever, I felt this week just a lot of adjustments. So people coming to the market now, I think a bit more aware on what the market's doing, where some of those ones who listed maybe November, December needed that time to sort of experience that little retraction, I think. But overall, I think the market's good, as you said, certain segments. So, mate, it's interesting. And mate, speaking of hot, what about Jeremy's Yanazelli? So anyone who doesn't know him, so he's the GOAT of accountants. Like he keeps a low profile, but he works with some of the savviest people in Australia. And the amount of feedback, we had some micro content. Mate, I've never had so many shared. Like you can see how many people have shared and saved it. It just sort of shows when it's good quality advice, like people love that. So if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to last week's set with Jeremy. It was good.
I love those guys. Like Jeremy's, if you didn't know, you'd go, he just looks like a battler, a punter off the street. And then he had 35 properties.
Yeah.
He sold down 9 or 10 to pay down debt on his PPR and still holds 25. 6-figure passive income, but you walk past him and he doesn't look like he's got 2 bobs to his name. I love that.
Very savvy man.
Yeah, very humble, really smart guy. And, if you haven't listened to that, if you want some motivation for 2023, go no further.
About structures and all that fun stuff. And, mate, and lastly on hot, mate, what about our guest today? Mate, we've absolutely nailed probably the hottest interior designer, I believe, in southeast Queensland and especially here on the Gold Coast, causing waves. So we're here with Kelle Howard from Kelle Howard Co. And she's going to give us an insight not only into, I guess, her property journey, because it's a really interesting one. She's done a lot in the property space. She's got a pretty good business model, which I'm really interested as a fellow entrepreneur to know her secrets there. But most of all, she's got a property coming to market as well. And we'd love to know the process of that because, mate, wait till you see the photos of this house.
Can't wait. Yeah.
Hot. So, Kelle Howard, welcome to the Property Prequel.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. There's a lot going on in my world at the moment, so I'm excited to chat with you and share some more with your listeners.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, and a mum as well.
Yeah, mum
and
of
freshly
two.
married. Like what? Like
Unbelievable.
It was a big year.
Yeah, I love getting guests on, and Crossy, I can't relate, so I always go back to Cross. I don't have kids, so mate, Crossy always says, mate, it's really good when we get like mothers or father and they've got kids, because I could only imagine trying to balance that as well.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Like the appreciation goes through the roof once you have kids, and then you see like people like Kelle, busy professionals. Like, and for people that don't know Kelle, that don't know she has kids, they look at it and they go, this really successful businesswoman doing good things, but then also goes home at night and it's got to be a mum. It's challenging. But just to get started today, Kelle, like what's a bit of your backstory? Like, are you a Gold Coast girl? Did you grow up here? Where did it all start for you?
So I actually was born in England. I moved to Australia in 1989 when I was 10. Didn't really appreciate that from my parents at the time, moving away from friends and family, but now I know it was the best decision that they could have made for us. I love living over here. I moved back to England when I was 18 for I think 4 years, and then needed to come back, and haven't been back since. So English background. I've got a pretty strong accent around my kids and my mum, which is
really
a little bit strange. I can't sort of turn it off. So I have these two accents that kind of flip backwards and forwards. So
that's so interesting. Because
a little bit of a quirk.
Sorry to interrupt, because I've got this thing that I do, right? My wife will be at home, like she'll be laughing or cringing probably, because anytime, like say you go to dinner to a Thai restaurant or Chinese, and everyone wants me to order because I subconsciously start talking like them. Is that like you at home? You just hear the English accents rolling around, so you just fall back into it?
I just have no control over it. My husband's Australian, and when we first met, I thought when he meets the kids and hears this accent come out, he's like, what on earth is going on here? But I don't even notice that I'm doing it. But and the kids have certain words that they come out with that say lunch and things like that, which is which is funny. But I think when I moved over here, starting high school, just probably wanting to fit in and not really realising what I was doing, but then going home after school and talking to my parents kept the English accent, so just kind of flipped between the two and
I would never have picked it.
No, certain words will come out, you're like, I hear it, but it's pretty strong around the kids.
And that move to England and then come back, what was that about? Did you for study, or was it?
I just at the time, that was 96. I graduated school, and I lived on the northern suburbs of Brisbane, and it was pretty quiet, and I just really wanted to go back there and travel and spend a year over there. And then when I was 19, I got a job with Virgin Atlantic. So it was a long haul cabin crew. Did that for 3 years, travelled the world, which was amazing, and went out a lot and did all the things that you do when you live in England. And then decided to come back to Australia, which obviously my parents were really happy about. So
where'd you plant yourself?
Always in Queensland. I've lived all different places in Brisbane. I lived on the Gold Coast in it was like 2010 for 4 years, and then moved back to Brisbane because of work. And then I've been back here now for 4 or 5 years on the Gold Coast, and here to stay now. Yeah.
I always find it interesting when people say move to the Gold Coast and then have to or move away, because it's a pretty damn good place to live, isn't it? And there's not too many better. I mean, we're all probably biased, but to move then Gold Coast back to Brisbane, it must have been torture.
Yeah, it's. I think that's it with the lifestyle that I had back then. I was commuting to Brisbane and things like that. Getting up in the morning, being able to go to the beach and then drive in, and then not having that anymore. It was a bit of a shock to the system, but you do kind of do what you need to do at the time. But the intention was always to move back here. So,
it's an interesting one, isn't it? Like Kelle just reminded, like on the weekend, I played that footy thing with a lot of my old teammates, and like, as you know, in the footy world, professional sport, you're all over the shop, England and Australia, Sydney, whatever. And the amount that had now planted back on the Gold Coast, like wild. Even guys that they were playing in UK for 6 years, it seems to be a place where everyone sort of will come back to at some point. I think like the whole COVID thing, everyone's appreciating lifestyle
definitely
a bit more. And like we were talking off camera just on like, habits and meditating. It's a really good lifestyle here. Like people value, I think the stuff away from work. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah, I think that, health and fitness and mindfulness is so prominent here. So I think that if you're into that or want to get into that, it's the perfect place to settle down and find, like-minded people that are into the same thing away from, the rat race. And
yeah.
And we'll talk about, your property stuff a bit later on, Kelly, but the Gold Coast, I suppose, could be segmented into, southern, central, northern Gold Coast. We're both sort of proud southerners. When you moved to the coast, did you sort of get a feel of, where the best part of the coast was back then? Or and we know where you are now, which we'll talk about. But, how did you end up sort of landing where you are?
Yeah, I can't even remember, but Burleigh was just on the radar, and being sort of growing up mostly on the northern side of Brisbane, I was a sunny coast girl. We'd always sort of go up there as a family, but for some reason Burleigh just came on my radar, and looked at some properties one day. I think looked at 4 or 5 properties and put an offer in on one and got accepted, and then just moved to Burleigh. And then when I moved back to Brisbane and wanted to move back down to the coast, I was like, Burleigh's the only place for me. Didn't have a place at the time. So I was renting, but I was like, I'll just rent in Burleigh so I can kind of, you find your dentist and your doctor and all the things and get used to the area. That was, I can't even remember spending a lot of time down here, but it just felt like the right place. And Burleigh back in 2010 was very different to what it is now. Didn't have all the restaurants and bars and things. It had a couple, but it's been really nice to kind of see like the area's growth and it's definitely I consider like a real hot spot down the southern end. So
I always say I check the population growth at Burleigh Hill each Sunday.
Yeah.
Every month, I kid you not, there's less grass space. So I'm just noticing.
It's a good barometer, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great. Yeah. I remember I used to go, I was on the Gold Coast probably a decade ago, and you go there on a Sunday, like the odd. Now it's like find a patch of grass.
Buy a ticket. It's getting that way, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's
like, are you local or are you just visiting?
It's good to see. And then, so where did the property slip into your blood? Like where you were at Virgin and did the flight attendant sort of stuff. Where did the property blood and interior design sort of slip in?
Yeah, it was always something that I was interested in. Like I remember even being a kid, a teenager, and decorating my room and changing things around. And I've always loved like the makeover process, before and after. So I was always passionate about it. And then throughout my 20s, when I left Virgin and moved back over here, I was actually mid-air when September 11 happened.
Oh wow!
So that was pretty scary. And then when we got back to England, obviously, flights were cancelled and people didn't want to fly. So
sorry, Kelly. Just quick, did you get notified of September 11 while you were mid-air?
Yeah, but we didn't.
Way.
Yeah, they obviously we didn't really know what it was.
Yep.
Like they said that an aircraft had crashed into a building, and then a second one, but we didn't really understand at that time because that was it was just something that wasn't really prominent then. We didn't obviously know that it was terrorism or whatever. So we got diverted to Canada and we were there for a few days and then flew back. It was one of the strangest flights I've ever been on because the passengers were just so quiet, compared to normal, and then so I got back to England and then Virgin offered voluntary redundancy because obviously the people weren't flying and things like that. I had already decided to move back to Australia but hadn't resigned yet because it was a few months away, so I took that and never went back to that. And it was quite interesting because in future jobs I did a lot of travel and I started getting really nervous flying, which before I never had a fear of flying, but gradually it started to sort of creep in, I guess, from that experience. I'm fine now. So I moved back over here and did quite a few different things. Went into makeup artistry. I was a estate manager for MAC Cosmetics.
Yep.
And then when I had my first child, I knew that the job that I was doing was probably not going to work with a baby, with all the travel and things like that. So I decided to study in interior design in 2012 when my son Xavier was 6 months old. Mm-hmm. So I did that and started up my business then, which was called Habitat and Beyond. It wasn't my name back then. So I focused a lot on kids' rooms at the times because obviously that was sort of what I was into, and it was something that I was passionate about, and I focused mainly on that and did some other interior design as well, and then took a bit of a break when my kids were quite little, and then decided to relaunch my business and go hard and, you know, really get back into it. And one thing about me is that I'm really, I guess, multi-passionate. You know, we were speaking earlier about all the different things that I wanted to do. I didn't just want to focus on interior design. I wanted to find a way to bring elements of that into other things that I was passionate about, like developing people. And I spoke to you earlier about the course that I did. So, I didn't just want to work with clients. I wanted to do my own projects, work with clients, and find a way to incorporate all of my passions into one business, because I like a lot of variety, but it probably didn't make sense to a lot of people at the time, all the different things that I wanted to do, but you know, it's worked out really well for me.
So are you someone, Kelle, that would get bored just doing the one thing? Do you need to be mentally stimulated by a number of things?
Yeah, I love waking up in the morning. It's like, oh, what have I got on today? You know, and I think that, you know, speaking about being a mum, when you're that type of person, it's really important to be organised and stay on track, because, you know, you don't want to you've got to stay on top of, I've got to stay on top of projects and those things while I'm doing other things that I'm interested in. So, you know, staying on track and making sure that I don't take on too much. I'm really clear on what lights me up, and if it's a definite yes, I say yes. And there's a lot of things that I turn down because it, you know, sounds like it might be a great opportunity. It's like, does it align with what I'm trying to create? So that was something that there was a book that I read many years ago now called The Desire Map, and I've spoken a lot about it on my social media as well. And it's really about tuning into your core desired feelings.
Yep.
And mine are free, alive, and connected.
Right.
So when opportunities come up, it's like, okay, I check in with that. It's like, is it going to make me feel free? So, you know, having, you know, lots of, you know, variety and freedom to do something incredible with what it is. Connection is really important. So connection to myself and the people that I'm working with. And, you know, obviously feeling alive. Is it something new and something that I get to, you know, expand in as a person and as a designer and as a business owner. So I actually have them tattooed on my arm.
Do you really? Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that, because you're hearing it a lot now in business, right? Like around what are your core values and what aligns with you, because like they say, the girl in the pretty red dress, like the more successful you get, the prettier she gets as well. And there's always going to be a pretty red dress everywhere you look as well. So I like what you said there, because it seems like a lot of successful people in that space say yes to the things that align with them and are really strong on saying no to things that don't align, even if it seems like a good opportunity. If it doesn't align with your values at the core essence, it seems like that's what a lot of people are doing right now.
Yeah, and I think that you know, when you are really in tune with that, it's so much easier to say no, because I think a lot of people struggle saying no, and I've definitely been guilty of that in the past. But I think that when you're saying no from the heart and the way that you deliver it, people understand. It's like, okay, this is why it doesn't align with me, and a great opportunity, you know, for somebody else. But I think it's it just has a lot more impact and value when you can you know why you're saying no and deliver that in the right way to the person that's asking.
It's interesting. It's great self-awareness, and you know, we always say, you know, you can't be everything to everyone. We had Darren Palmer on actually late last year, and he was big on that. Question for you, Kelle. At what point, you know, or how many years ago did that sort of hit you, and did you actually start doing that? Because the challenge is, and I said this to Darren, challenge is you got to find that balance between niching down and knowing what you believe in and like, but you still want to do things that are commercial that make you some money so that you can actually get ahead in life, right? So it's that balancing act. So when did that sort of hit you?
I think for me, because when I studied interior design and started up that initial business, there was things that I loved about it and things that I didn't love about it. So when I relaunch, it's like getting really clear on the types of people that I wanted to work with was really important. When I've mentored people and throughout my course as well, I've definitely been asked that question. Obviously, it's not always possible to say no, financially, or, obviously if you're wanting to get experience and those kind of things. So I think as long as you're moving in the direction of where you're heading, sometimes you do have to say yes, or you see an opportunity there. It might not be exactly what you're looking for. Sometimes I've also done like a reverse brief. So it's like someone's giving me an opportunity and it's like it doesn't quite fit. I'm like, okay, how about we do it this way? And they will either come back and say yes or no to that. And it's like sometimes it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a really great idea. Maybe we could look at it. This is the way that you could work with me. How does that work for you as well? But definitely when you're starting a new business, then I guess it's something that, comes with time, that you start to say no a little bit more when you get busier and your name's out there. You have that luxury, I suppose. But I think getting clear on it in the very beginning and know where you're headed is really, really important.
What would be, all right, for any mums out there with kids or males or the dads, and I hear this one a lot, all right, you got a family, you're in that, you want to move into your own business, they've lost the drive and passion for their 9 to 5 and they've got the idea. What do you think the biggest lessons you learnt from transitioning from, your 9 to 5, being a mother, into entrepreneurship? What's your biggest advice there, you think?
A few things. I'd definitely say sitting down and working out, what you're good at and what you're passionate about. Like when I relaunched my business, it's like, okay, well, I know that I'm really good at developing people. It was always a strength in previous roles that I've had when I worked, in 9 to 5. So how can I incorporate that in to it? Being really, really organised, because I think that, if you,
Structure.
I know for me, if I feel like I'm dropping the ball in some areas, then I really struggle with that. So, what's my capacity right now? What does the dream vision look like? Maybe I don't have that amount of time right now to spend, but what can I give to feel like I'm moving forward? And I think that, if you find something that you're truly passionate about and that you're good at, you find the time, talking about being a mum. And, at the time when I relaunched my business, I'm newly married now, but, as a single mum doing, building a house, building a business, I've got incredible friendships. I had all the things going on, and you find the time, like when you're excited about something new. I had a really good friend of mine. It was last year or the year before. She wanted to open up an organisation business. So I said, okay, I can really help you with that. Come and help me organise, my home, and I'll share it on social media and all of those things. And she had a 9 to 5 job at the time, but she just got so passionate about sharing on Instagram and what content, things like that. And she had this vision to wind up, her 9 to 5 in a year, and she did it, and I think in like 4 or 5 months. Because she just it just really lit her up, and she was super organised, and she didn't lose interest in what she was doing. I think that that's really important, as well as still giving everything you've got to the person that's paying you at the time.
Yeah, that's tricky.
Doing that as well. But I think that just sitting down and going through what the long-term goal is. And one thing that I found when I sat down all those years ago and looked at all the different areas of business that I wanted to work in, it was just really about having a plan, but so many things happened a lot earlier than I expected. There was things that I put on there that I thought, okay, that'd be great to do in the future. And some of them came first, so it's kind of like you don't really have control. It's like this or something better, or, this is what I want, but not being too attached to the timing, just being open to, all opportunities as they come. And that's when I found, especially like I'm a big believer in manifestation and all of that sort of
the universe.
And if you open yourself up, it's like, not putting limitations, like this is what I would like it to look like. And many, many times it was even better than I imagined.
Unreal.
That's good, isn't it? And because we spoke off camera about, meditation, and Matt said, back in our day when we were both playing rugby league, that was a bit woo-woo and stuff, and it's all changing now. And manifesting and the universe, I'm a believer in it myself, What about, have you got any tips? It might be a hard one, Kelle, but someone's got a passion, right? They're really passionate about something, but it mightn't be something that's easy to sort of monetize, or you might look at that passion and go, they're really passionate about it, but gee, it's not really going to create a career. Or is there anything, books, any sort of things you've read or things you've watched where people can sort of go and how they can actually monetize their passion. I suppose from that point of view.
Let me have a think. I mean, there's so many different avenues down there. I think that coaching is like a really big thing. Like I've worked with many different coaches over the years. Finding someone that's in that sort of industry and finding someone that you can mentor with. I think that so many people feel like they've got to do it all by themselves.
Yes.
It's like, okay, and I've mentored many different people, not just in interior design, in different industries as well. It's finding someone that has that, passion for business, who's had success in it, and it might be, and coaches that I've worked with haven't been in interior design as well. Like I, like to work with people that don't really understand the industry, because I'm all about doing it my way. So I try not to, I don't even really, I mean, I support people in the industry, but I really try not to look at what other people are doing. I really try to do my own thing. So not to kind of, pass it on to someone else, but I feel like, working with someone that you're like, wow, I love what they're doing. They're not in the industry that I want to work in, but really understanding how they got to, where they are and how they started, and finding inspiration from that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love what Kelle said there, and it really relates to something I hold true, and really opened my mind around like mentors and finding mentors outside your space, because sometimes those mentors, they call it like they can add a perspective shift that you didn't even see.
Yeah.
So the investment into a mentor, the return is they'll open you up to something you will never see. And I can hand on heart say that some of the mentors I've partnered with, just the investment is like beyond what I paid, because I would have never seen that. And that perspective shift is worth everything, right? And it sounds like that's exactly what you're saying.
I think even, whether it's social media or, coaching, really looking outside. Like I follow a lot of people in creative industries that aren't in interior design, like graphic designers and copywriters and things like that. Because, I just find, so much inspiration from them about how they run their business. It's like, how can I take something that they're doing and find a way to bring it into my business, to whether to expand it or to streamline it. So I think that that's really important, because it can be quite easy to just be like, okay, that's the way it's done. That's the way everyone else is doing it, and it doesn't really allow you to think outside the box sometimes.
Yeah, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And I caught up with one of the head coaches on the Australian swim team during the week, and I'm in the rugby league coaching world, but some of the things he said to me, and he just said it like as if he was going to get the bread and milk of a morning. Yeah. And it just stuck with me, and I thought, wow, that's great. And I'm in a totally different sport, but it's so relevant.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm definitely going to apply it and implement it, and it's really, really good. So you see a lot of that stuff with sport, but also in business. So if you're listening here today and you think, well, that's great, Kelly's an interior designer and she does houses, and I'm off doing whatever else, but there's a lot of big gold to be taken, right?
Mate, heaps. And just lastly on the entrepreneurship side, because I'm really loving the angles you're going. It's a real credit. You can see where the success lies, right? And where they say success leaves clues. Yep. So lastly on the business side, Kelle, if you were to give 3 tips to those people who are afraid to take that leap, what were the biggest tips you can give in terms of that? Because it's hard doing your own thing, right? Because there's no guarantee, and the uncertainty there is what's 3 tips for anyone thinking of starting a business?
Firstly, I'd say look at who you're surrounding yourself with, whether it's people in your friendship, like how can I expand my circle and in the people that I'm spending time with. A lot of my friends are business owners, small business owners, entrepreneurs. So, that has been really valuable to me, the chats that you have. Yeah, so I think that especially if you're working 9 to 5, I know some of the 9 to 5 jobs that I've had, a lot of people don't really enjoy their job, and you've kind of
you're surrounded by that
negativity. So
True.
I think that having a look at where you're spending your time outside of your 9 to 5 is really important. Social media is so powerful. So if you looking at starting your own business and you don't really feel like you've got the content yet, just start it anyway. You can always delete later on if it doesn't align, but I think just starting somewhere, because any following is a good following, and just being really consistent. I know that that's something that's really paid off for me is the focus on social media and obviously Instagram in particular, that was very intentional. From the very beginning to have a platform there. So I think, starting off with that. And I guess, again, as I said earlier, having that vision, like what's it going to look like in the future, knowing where you're wanting to head and just trusting that it might go in a completely different direction to what you imagine. Yeah. But, if you're taking steps every day and just being, having blue sky thinking, like what if there was no limitations on what you wanted to achieve, what would that look like? Because it's really interesting when you do that, how many limitations you find that you're putting on yourself. And once you're aware of them, it's so much easier to break through them. So I think just, having a massive brainstorming session and what would that look like, and then finding ways to take those small steps every day.
Mate, stop, press pause, rewind, play it over again 100 times. That was absolutely
I said
gold.
It's hot. It's just got it hot. She's good. So what I'm hearing there, Kelle, is, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around. Yep. So your network's your net worth. Yep. Secondly, leverage. Sounds like you've leveraged where the attention's at, and it's on the bloody mobile phones, and isn't it? Like, it really, the ROI on it. Hey, it's something, and not being a perfectionist. Just do it. Just have a crack. Right? I had one. The 70-30 rule. Just 70. If you feel you're 70%, then just do it, because you'll figure the 30% out as you go, right? And people are always going to make mistakes. And then the third sounds like you got to have some sort of vision and clarity, right, to know where you're going. So, mate, it's heating up. It's heating up. So let's talk on Crossy needs some antiperspirant, and he sweats it. Like, unbelievable. Like, what about on the property front now? So talk to us about, mate, this house you've got coming to market. Far out. So, when this launches, we'll be mid-campaign. But give us an idea. So it's a new build, isn't it?
Yes.
Give us an idea quickly on how that came about. Was that the vision from the start, what we see now?
Yeah, so the overall aesthetic was something that was in the process way before I found the property. I knew that I wanted to do something that was quite different at the time. We're seeing a lot of, the Mediterranean style properties being built now and being renovated. But when I had the vision, it really wasn't the case in Queensland. So I took a lot of inspiration from Ibiza and Mexico and Palm Springs, and I wanted to basically bring different elements of those flavours into the home. I was really focused on like a lot of tactile elements like render, Venetian plaster, terracotta tiles, lots of brass and things like that. So I had the vision for the home way before I found it, and initially I was thinking about doing a renovator. As I said at the time, I was a single mum, so I thought that doing a renovator would be a lot more palatable for me to do. So I started looking for properties and couldn't really find anything that I could create what I wanted to create with. So then I was like, okay, I need to find something to knock down. I'd actually looked at a property a year earlier that had just been built by a builder, and I loved like the finishes and it was like a really top quality build, and I wasn't quite ready to buy yet. So a year later, I reached out to that builder and said, look, I'm gonna build a house. Haven't found the block yet, but I want you to be my builder, basically. And I used the same building designer. So we were all sort of talking. We called ourselves the A-team and, sort of talking about what it would be and getting them really excited about the overall vision. And then I was looking in Burleigh, and I was looking on the other side of James Street to where the house is. And then this property came up where I ended up buying, and it was on the same street of the house that I'd looked at a year ago.
Yeah, okay.
Across the road. And it fit everything. And I was like, wow, I manifested this. It was just something that I had visualized living on that street. I was really interested in that property a year ago, but wasn't, like I said, wasn't quite ready to buy. And then managed to find, like I said, if not this, something better. And something better to me was being able to create my own property. So I bought the house, I think within 3 days, and started the build a few months later.
Wow.
But yeah, as I said, I wanted to create something that wasn't really being done. I was very interested in doing something with biophilic design, like the plants on the outside, spilling over, which wasn't really that popular back then. that was really important to me. Lots of architectural details. At the time, I wanted to do photo shoots of the house, which I did for about 8 months. I'm not doing them anymore, but that was really important to just make sure that every angle
of the house
was, no matter where you stood, there was something to look at. But quite pared back in the furnishings because I wanted the architectural detail to be the feature. It was such an exciting process, like building the house. I had so much fun doing it. It was not really stressful. I think that I'm a pretty chill person anyway, but there was not really anything that was stressful about it. It was a pretty quick build. It was about 8 months, but wanted to create something that people were just like, wow. I'd also take a lot of inspo from commercial design. So, hotels and bars.
Okay.
So that was
a good tip.
Yeah, that was something that, with a lot of the built-in day beds, not having couches in the house, having built-in day beds. I've got this cinema room that has a big curved wall with I think it's like a 6 or 7 meter day bed on there for lounging around. The kitchen as well, sort of like a cafe feel rather than a traditional kitchen. Yep. There's a butler's pantry that I call the plant tree because it's just got plants everywhere in there. Yeah. So just, little things that, it's a family home, but, how can I create something that, felt a little bit more like you're in a really cool bar or a resort or something like that.
That's great. A little logistical one, Kelle, I suppose, because for people that are listening, go, okay, well, you're looking to buy and renovate and then, later on you buy and knock down and build. The difference in cost, don't give me figures, but just obviously everyone would love to knock down and rebuild, but not everyone's in that financial position, right, to be able to go and do that. So was that a consideration to looking at going, well, I was thinking about spending X, Y, Z on the reno, and geez, now I'm looking at ABC on the build.
Yes.
Was it a big difference? And how did you feel about that emotionally going financial?
It was considerable, but I think because of my vision for the business, like relaunching my business and using the house as a platform, for that as well.
So it was an investment.
It was an investment in that, that perspective. When I was doing the photo shoots, that was a really big, opportunity there financially and for my business as well. And also very intentional in terms of the visibility of my brand because obviously so many brands were using it. So for me, it made a lot of sense because it was, I guess, a business investment in that sense as well. And obviously showing people my style and my aesthetic as a designer. I really stick to that aesthetic, which I call raw coastal luxe. So clients basically come to me that love that aesthetic. I don't really branch outside of that anymore. Okay. And that was something that, again, when I relaunch, it's like I don't want to be working in all these different, these different styles. I want to stick to what I love and what I'm good at, and that may change in the future. But for now, I really want to do that and do it well. Yep. And luckily enough, people loved it, and people wanted to, sort of replicate that aesthetic as well, which, as I said, was quite new. There was definitely some other people, Three Birds, obviously, you've spoken to. They did we're doing a house, a girl, Sophie, whose house it was. She was doing the series at the time. Yes. As I was building mine, I know her vaguely through social media, and I was like, oh my gosh, our houses are so similar. I think the first room she launched was her kitchen, and I had the same taps, the same concrete, but I'd already selected it. Yep. So that was obviously another property that people saw in that sort of Mediterranean style, and I think we were probably the first two that I saw in Australia that were doing that sort of style. So it really took off from there.
Where do you think the trend's going? What would be your hot tip for 23, you think?
I'm not a trendy person in that sense, but I have a vision for our next property, which is more sort of Japanese minimalist. So something just really cool, very sort of sultry, less white, something just you walk in and you just feel like it's your sanctuary. So I don't really follow trends. That's just not my vibe, but that's kind of the direction that I'm planning on heading in with the next property.
Love it. It's like finding, again, you got a vision and you're sticking to what you call you're not really following.
If it
the
is
crowd.
a big trend, then
Yeah.
it first. I set the trend.
Yeah, that's right. I asked Darren Palmer that question last year, mate. How do trends work? And I got about a 25-minute answer. I was really confused by the end of it. So
I think it just depends, like some people, you asked me earlier about, being lacking a lot of variety and things like that. Like I do, but, there's some things that I sort of, stick to and try to do my own take on things rather than looking at what's being done there and how can I do that differently. It's like what's lighting me up at the moment and just going with that.
That's good. And what about, as Matt alluded to, you've got an auction sort of coming up.
Yes.
It's pretty exciting. Like, how are you feeling about it all?
Yeah, we are so excited. When I built Barho, it wasn't the intention to only be there for a few years, but we're just really excited to do something new, create something for our family that fits, our family as it's grown. As I said, I'm newly married, so we want something that really encompasses all of our style. The kids are getting a little bit older and they're starting to have a bit more of a voice on that, so it's less about Kelly's vision and more about the family. And it just feels like a really good time. I think that we created something really magical there that people loved, and it's time for someone else to really enjoy what we've created. So we've been working hard getting the house and the best condition and doing all the deep cleaning and all that fun stuff. Really excited to announce it to everybody. I think some people will be really surprised, and there'll be a lot of very excited people there about the potential opportunity for them.
100%.
And lots of new things coming up in the future.
I was going to say, Kelle, you got a good audience of people who are following in your footsteps. What do you think the biggest tips are on the buy side in terms of what are you looking for? You've got the vision. What's important to you in the actual asset and dwelling type?
Yeah, I think that's important to get clear on because, there's so many things that, I'm looking at right now that, I have in mind for the next property. And, obviously we have a budget in mind as well. It's like what can be changed, what's going to, break the bank and is that worth doing? I think that's, also something when I work with clients as well. It's like we have this vision. It's like, where can I save money? What, say for example, with a bathroom, it's like you're going to go with, feature sinks and a feature bath, but maybe, get a more affordable tile. It's like being really smart about where you're investing, especially, obviously with, if you're doing a structural reno as well, it obviously can be quite costly. So, being smart about like the changes that you're intending to make, and is that going to be worthwhile? Is that going to pay off, especially if you are planning to sell it in the future? Obviously not overcapitalizing. It's like, what are people looking for? What are they going to notice? And how can I create that wow factor? Picking a couple of features that you can invest in to create that wow factor, and where can we save?
Smart.
Yeah, it's such good advice because, and again, my numbers won't be right, but, like a tile that's 70 square metres as opposed to one that's 130, if you're planning to sell it, but aesthetically it looks the same, that could be a $5,000 difference. If you do that 4 or 5 times in your house, there's 20 to 30 grand that you've just torn up, isn't it? Like how important is that when you're planning a house and sticking to a budget?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very resourceful. I think, obviously working with clients as well, sticking to their budgets. So I love being able to, do my research and look at what's new out there and how can we create a look. Pinterest is such a big tool that I use in my business and clients as well. And especially in commercial properties, I find that a lot of clients will find all these incredible, overseas luxe hotels, and it's like they want to achieve that, and they don't quite have the, the budget that these hotels will have. So it's like, okay, well, what is it about that? How did they achieve that look? How can I find materials to give that look without, using, the really expensive marble or whatever it may be? So looking at, the different elements and what makes that work, like what makes the overall look work, and how can we achieve that? So, and then just obviously doing a lot of research. We're so obviously lucky now with social media for inspo, and obviously we don't have to just traipse around to all different suppliers having a look at what's there. We can source things from interstate and things like that as well.
If you're doing a build, here's a quick one for people. You might be on a budget but want to get a bit of an RO. what space of the home or what aesthetic of the home do you think is not worth cutting costs on?
I think most people would say it's definitely kitchen and bathrooms. Yeah. I think that they really set the tone for the whole house. So, in bedrooms and things like that, like you can, create something really, like I've got like the built-in bed that I did, like a floating bed that my builders made, did something really magical, but the rest of the bedroom's quite simple, but the bathroom really kind of sets the tone for the master suite there. So, kitchens and bathrooms are definitely worthwhile, but as I said, you can still be really smart about, the finishes that you choose. It might just be that you get incredible taps, and then go for like veneer cabinetry, or do like a feature sink, and just, finding a couple of elements that really bring the luxury up without feeling like you've got to spend money in every aspect of the kitchen or the bathroom.
Great tips.
Great advice. We could talk all day. We're conscious of your time. But I just wanted to ask Kelle, obviously we spoke about busy mum, about to go to auction, new house, plans for that. What else? What's next? As far as the business goes, do you see yourself have you got a bit of a plan around how long you want to do it for? Is it just keep going till the music's in you? What's the plan?
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of visions for the future. I'm actually working on something really exciting with my husband at the moment that I can't share quite yet, but should launch this year. Like when two minds come together, he's been, massive inspiration for me, and we're quite similar in a lot of ways, but he's really expanded me as a person, and, doing something together and bringing both of our, skills and knowledge and talent together, and creating something that is going to blow people's socks off. So I can't share too much about that, but...
so we need to put in the calendar when you're going to announce it. Yeah. We'll get you back in.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool, and, similar in some ways to things that I've done in the past, but, just doing something that's... creating a lot of newness, and will help and affect a lot of people. So we're excited to do that, and obviously the new property as well, and just I'm just so open to any opportunities that come my way, that to take a look at and see if that's something that I don't like to sort of pigeonhole myself too much. It could go in any direction. So I'm excited to see what the universe brings me. I was
just going to say, Crossy, it's the old life will always leave doors open. It's our job to walk through them, and life will close the ones we're not meant to continue to walk through. Like, it sounds like you're very open. It sounds though, the biggest takeaway I've got from today is Kelle's really big on the core and essence of who she is and where she wants to go in business, in her finances, in her relationships, and all those sorts of things. So that's been my big takeaway, I think, listening in is, it sounds like it all starts within, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think that, we spoke earlier about, meditation and mindfulness and all of those things, especially if your listeners are business owners as well. Sometimes we're so focused on, outward,
external,
what we need to do on the external, and really it all starts, within us, and being, having dedicated time for, personal development and growth and expansion is really the key to everything that I've done, I believe. So I think if people aren't, really looking into that, then, that's something that will just open their mind up completely, and things become so much easier. Like, that's one thing that I really found as well when I focused on my personal development myself. Like, I felt so much more ease in my life. I wasn't constantly feeling like I was pushing it. Just it's like, everything just felt
Just on that, just quickly, because we will wrap up, but what's your tip or a bit of advice for someone who's sitting there listening and go, you know what, I keep hearing this, that I've got to be more mindful and I've got to start doing a bit of this, like self-help and meditate. Where would you start? If you, knowing what you know now, if you could go back and go, right, I want to be better internally in myself, where would you start?
I am a massive fan of the teachings of Abraham Hicks. So if your listeners haven't heard of Abraham Hicks, look it up on YouTube. You can also have podcasts as well. But it's really just about the laws of attraction, the art of allowing what you want to come through you. That's a really good place to start, because what I love about their teachings is that no matter what the subject is, whether it's money, career, relationships, the way that you view yourself, the teachings that they give are exactly the same. So you can apply it to anything that you want to manifest or expand in your life. So it's really simple and really transformational. So I think that's a really good place to start. So YouTube is pretty much, sometimes if I'm working, I just put YouTube on. I'm not watching it. I just listen and it just let one flow on to the next. But that was a really powerful tool that I got into a few years ago. So I definitely suggest starting there.
Oh,
outstanding.
Absolute gold. Sorry, I just got one. This is just because I'm interested. Last one, definitely. Business and relationships. I feel you'd have a good answer for this. What's your thoughts on that, on balancing a marriage with business and always striving for, the next thing? I
think for us it's really just about being aware of the way that we encourage each other. Like not every couple is going to have the same passions.
Yes.
And for us, we do have a lot of the same passions, so that works really well. But for, showing interest, it's like, how can I encourage this person? Because I think that sometimes we can be so focused on self and what we're doing, balancing that out. Because, like this morning to come to the podcast, my husband's like, hey, do you want me to drop, the kids off at school and do the school photos? And, we just kind of work together on that because we have like this overall vision for our family. That's another thing that I would definitely sort of suggest doing, is like, what's the overall vision, so that when you're balancing, if one person or both people have to work late because they're doing something, it's like, I know why we're doing this. I know why we don't have that time that we'd love to spend to each other, because this is actually moving us closer to it. So that's something that that we really focus on. It
sounds like you obviously chat around your aligned visions. Then
yeah, and that was something obviously when I wasn't married and was single, getting really clear for the single ladies and men out there as well. It's like, what are you looking for in a partner? And that was something that was really important to me, as well as, to maintain my independence, but also come into union with someone that, was really aligned in, the values and what I wanted for myself and for my family and my relationship. So
yeah, wow. So
sounds like she manifested that as well. Brought him in.
I did. Someone said that once. He's like, you can't manifest a person. I already existed.
Yeah. Oh man, I could go another hour like Jay Shetty for a second, but we're not going to.
Love Jay.
Yeah, he's good. What do you reckon? This will be interesting, right? Yeah. So Kelle, we always like to finish with a bit of a fast five. Just the first thing comes to mind. It can be any dwelling type and any location in the world. So the first one is holiday home.
Ooh, Italy.
Italy. Where? What? Amalfi or like?
Yeah, we just went there for our honeymoon.
Oh,
yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, that would be amazing to go there every year for an anniversary. Yeah. We were there for not for an Amalfi for 3 weeks. We did go to Amalfi for a week, but
yeah. Okay. Well,
sorry, this is not fast five.
A bit of a villa or like a.
We did an Airbnb. Yeah. It was incredible.
Jeez, that'd be nice. Next one is just a blue chip sort of investment property. Like anywhere in the world, where would you put your money?
Oh, gosh, you're getting me with these ones.
Yeah, no,
I thought that far.
And not so fast five.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I would love to get somewhere in Bali. I don't know if you consider that blue chip.
No, 100%. Like a little Airbnb kind of setup. Yeah, right.
I think that would be cool.
It's becoming popular, actually.
It is very.
Now that we're back open for business, and I reckon they'll rent their heads off now moving forward. I reckon that would be a good little.
I've got a few friends that are building over there at the moment.
Yes,
and it seems really affordable and achievable.
And then if you put that aesthetic touch, if you got the skill set, I think they do really well. And then it sounds like if you could punch the marketing in it, sounds like the social media side. I think that'd be so powerful.
Yeah.
Very good. Next one is I don't know. You might have know the answer very quickly. But the hens party.
Oh,
where'd you go?
Where was the hens? Yeah.
Did you have a hens for the marriage?
I just did something at the house.
Oh, did you?
The perfect location is Bahu.
Yeah, love it.
It's like, where else would I want to go? You can have all the food and drink that you want and be at home. But yeah, it was a perfect sort of backdrop. But for me, if it wasn't there, I would choose somewhere on the water. Yeah, like a boat or something like that.
Yeah. A bit of a brunch or more of an arvo.
Arvo session.
Yeah, a little arvo sesh, a bit sunset vibes.
That's right.
Yeah, love it.
Get a bit sideways.
Yeah.
Get the tunes on.
Yeah. And then what about where's the forever? I mean, there is no real forever, but where could you see yourself, like dwelling type, suburb, anywhere in the world? Just you pulled up stumps, everything's done and dusted.
I would honestly still say Burleigh. Like
Yeah,
it
really,
has my
yeah.
heart. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it
Cool.
there. As close to the beach as like the house
Yep.
is pretty close to the beach now, but as close as we could get to the beach would be amazing.
Unreal.
If not further, maybe somewhere further down the coast on the beach.
Yeah, beachfront.
Beachfront.
Yeah, love
Yeah.
that.
Just walk
Hard
out
to
into the
beat.
sand.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you.
Yeah. Every time I do my little meditation, I have a quick look back and I'm manifesting. So
Yeah,
hopefully
there it
That's
is.
it.
I'm waiting.
It's on the way.
Like I was sat outside that house the whole
Yeah.
time.
That's it. And last one, Kelle, your piece of advice for buyers looking to get into the market for 23.
I guess it's really just about, looking at like if someone's doing a renovation, it's like what's the potential. I think that's what do you see? What's the
end?
vision?
Yeah.
What's the end goal for it? Does it have does it tick the boxes? Especially if it's not a forever home. That's what I like to do. It's like just really sitting down and looking at what are my must-haves, what can I kind of do without, is if it doesn't have that, is it something that's affordable and easy to add, or is that going to blow the budget out? And I think that's where I would start.
Unreal. Great advice.
Excellent.
Mate, we said it was it's just hot. It keeps getting hotter and hotter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're going to have to go for a dip after this, I think.
That's where I'll be going. I know that.
No, in all honesty, Kelle, it's been amazing. Where can people find you? So Kelle Howard Co is the business.
Yeah.
What about, I know you're active on socials. Where are you at on socials?
Same, kept it the same across all platforms. So just kellehoward.co. Kelle is spelled with an E.
Yep. And where can you get in touch with the course? You got that online course. You're telling us off camera. That's epic.
Yeah, through my website, you can access the course through there. So it's all on there. Or I've got a link in my bio, which will probably change to the house in the next week or so. Just through my website, or just send me a DM. I love to chat in the DMs. I think that's one thing with social media is that I'm very active on there. If I'm active on there, I get about 100 messages a day. So it does take up a bit of time, but I love to have a chat. Feel free.
Community, right? Yeah, that's awesome. No, we just want to acknowledge, me and Crossy said before coming here, we really enjoyed, your local entrepreneurs, people having a crack, and at the end of the day, you're running a household as well. Yeah. So I know these apps always do really well in terms of inspiration to others. So your stories, as I said, we didn't know your backstory, and it's just we've even gained more respect. So you're doing really well, Kelle. So thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much. I love chatting with you both, and I'm really excited for the episode to go live and just hear people's feedback. So
100%.
It'll be good, and good luck in a couple of weeks.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it'd be great.
All eyes on Bajo Asol.
Yeah, we'll be watching, that's for sure.
100.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelle.
Appreciate it.